Oh, I knew looking at the camera. Is that where I'm? Okay, I just want to make sure I'm here, bro.
You good now?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah, let's get it, bro.
All right. You ready? You ready for this?
Hello, audience.
Couch Potato General Manager back with another video. I am CPGM Juice, joined by CPGM Drew, and we are recapping. We're providing our analysis to the Week 2 Thursday night football game between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns. And Drew, going into this particular contest, there was a lot of what you call a scuttlebutt, a lot of conversation, a lot of debate, throughout the national outlets, national syndicated shows about what this means for, of course, Joe Burrow, who was the first overall pick of the 2020 NFL Draft, going against a former first overall pick in Baker Mayfield, and, of course, all the expectations that though the fans in Cleveland and, of course, throughout the nation have of a very talented Browns team, but they just haven't been able to put it together. Of course, they got bushwhacked that first week against the Ravens, and this was, if the Browns don't win this particular game, then all hell's going to break loose. There was trade rumors about Odell Beckham and this, that, and the other. And Kevin Stefanski doesn't know what he's doing in his first game as a head coach. And I want to start with the quarterback play in this particular game. Of course, the Browns came out on top. Mayfield was pretty efficient. He did have a turnover at one point, I believe, in the second half. It was a misguided throw into zone coverage. I don't think he read it. It was like basically a two-man route. And he didn't see the backside corner come over and make the play, William Jackson. But other than that, Mayfield, he threw the ball with purpose. He had he seemed to be playing with more confidence than he's had in recent, at least in the first week, and then certainly what we saw towards the end of last year. He was playing with more swagger. And then, of course, Joe Burrow, the Bengals asked him to throw the ball 61 times. And what did you think about those two quarterbacks' performance in this game?
I thought both quarterbacks played well. I thought that Baker Mayfield, you saw what he needed to do. They said it in the broadcast, get him outside the pocket, get him moving. And you just saw him come alive. You saw the Baker Mayfield that we saw at Oklahoma. Even when he was able to stay in the pocket, I thought he looked good, but I felt like that was where if the Bengals wanted to succeed, that's where they had to keep him. Unfortunately, he kept making it outside the pocket. It was driving me crazy. Like, they know what the game plan is, but they kept allowing him to get outside the pocket, and he was doing what he would do. Got the ball. When he's getting the ball to 13, you know there's going to be problems that day. And he was able to get it 13 and make things happen. As for Joe Burrow, I mean, you saw some good, you saw some bad, you saw some. I don't know if I want to say it was ugly, but I thought that he had a pretty good. He had a good game. I'd say it was a good game for a rookie. Second game, playing against that fierce defensive line that is the Cleveland Browns. And I think that the Bengals offensive line is kind of a work in progress type of thing. But I think he may have realized at this point that he's not at LSU anymore. And you can't do some of the things that he was able to do at LSU, which was kind of dive his head, duck his head, kind of lean back this way or that way to, prevent the sack and be able to kind of scramble and make plays. He did miss a couple of throws to number 18. We'll talk about him later.
Yeah.
Because I got some things I want to say about him. But I thought both quarterbacks had pretty good games for the most part. But again, you don't want Burrow throwing the ball 61 times. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I'll start with Mayfield. You mentioned that the Bengals didn't do a good job of keeping him between the tackles, keeping him inside that tackle box, because that tends to be when Mayfield struggles. When Mayfield got in a rhythm, he is a rhythm thrower. You know what I mean? He got in a rhythm. And I think Kevin Stefanski did some self-scouting and made it a point to obviously lean on the running game. Of course, when you have Nick Chubb, an improved offensive line along with Kareem Hunt, it should be run, play action, run, some more play action. I think that's the formula for the Browns' success. And we saw that Thursday night. But when they did run play action, they moved the pocket. They gave him clear sight lines. They made it. They didn't leave him as a stationary target, and they didn't leave him within those weeds because he's not the biggest of quarterbacks. You understand what I'm saying? You want to make sure that he gets depth in his drop back, and he has those clear sight lines, and then he can let it rip. And when he's in rhythm, Baker Mayfield can be very effective. He can be very effective. Burrow demonstrated that poise that everybody raves about, and it's eerie. It's eerie for a guy who is is new to the NFL game. Obviously, this is just his second career start, second week. He's a starter from day one. You know, a team that was obviously the worst in the NFL last year, and despite some of the peaks and valleys in his play, there seems to be this even keel temperament, man. And I think that goes a long way. I think, you know, the guys, when they look him in the eye in the huddle, they'll understand that even though they may not necessarily be playing great, that they're not going to get overwhelmed or rattled necessarily, because of course the trigger man seems to have it under control. You know, I agree with you. You know, there are times where he's not getting that ball out of his hands quick enough. One thing that really stood out to me was the fact that he rarely gets any depth in his drop back when he's when he's in the shotgun. You know, I'd like to see him play with a little bit more urgency in his lower half, but I'm not terribly concerned about Burrow if they can keep him clean. The thing is, having him throw the ball 61 times with a poor offensive line, let's call it what it is a poor offensive line at this juncture, it's not conducive to success. It really isn't. It truly isn't. Now, of course, you know, certain aspects of the game, the way things were flowing, the score, the fact that they were down by a couple of scores, it's conducive, you know, to throwing the ball more and more. But certainly you don't, in most instances, you do not want your quarterback, your rookie quarterback, throwing the ball 60 times in a game. And they weren't able to push the ball down the field. That was the main issue. Of course, they're having trouble holding up in pass protection, but nobody was winning deep. And it appeared that Zac Taylor gave up on it after early. You know, that first play of the game, I believe they took a shot to A.J. Green, and he made a great catch, but he wasn't able to come down in bounds. And from there, they really never tried anything down the field. It was a lot of slants, a lot of out routes, things of that nature, maybe some posts, but everything was short to intermediate from there on out. And, you know, the likes of a Denzel Ward was stepping on routes. And of course, the Cleveland Browns defensive line between Myles, Garrett, and Sheldon Richardson, they were dominating up front. So, but I'm with you. I am with you that in terms of what we saw from Burrow, it remains, even in losing effort, it's encouraging. And then, of course, for Mayfield, I think Mayfield really needed that. And they have the formula. You know, it may not necessarily be the way they want to play, but considering where Kevin Stefanski came from, it seems like, yeah, it's outside zone left, outside zone right, you know, play action, take a shot to 13, as you mentioned. Of course, the media, the storyline was the quarterbacks, but I thought the tail of the tape, the game came down to obviously who could control the line of scrimmage and run the football in this case. And Cleveland's two-headed monster with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt made all the difference. What do you think about their rushing attack? And on the other side of the ball, what do you think about the usage associated with Joe Mixon and Gio Bernard?
I like. Let me start with the Bengals. I thought that, you know, that mix. I do like that mix of Gio. I guess Gio don't die. How old is Gio, man? Like,
He's been around a while. He's been around a while.
I like the mix. And let me ask you a question. I got it down here on my little pad over here. Let's just say you had a good offensive line. Just think of a team that you say they have a good offensive line, and we're talking run blocking purely. You had your choice of Chubb, Mixon, or Hunt. Who are you taking, and why?
I don't think you go wrong with any of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think depending on the scheme, I might go in a different direction, because I think all those guys are comparable. I do think in terms of just being a pure ball carrier, Chubb, and I would give the edge to Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I think in terms of, you know, being dynamic in the open field, I would lean towards Mixon a bit more. And I think overall, just in terms of both the rushing and receiving game, I may lean towards Kareem Hunt overall. But they all, to me, they all have that full toolkit in terms of the skills. You know, I think there are just certain areas where each one excels a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah, you kind of right where I'm at. But no, I thought, you know, you throw the ball 61 times, and I know they were down, but I just felt like they didn't run the ball enough. And I know sometimes when you don't get the 6, the 7 yard plays, you're getting the 2 and the 3. You like, we need bigger chunk plays, you know, in terms. So we're gonna drop back and throw the football. But I felt like they just didn't run the ball enough. I don't know if, you know, if Zac Taylor felt like, hey, you know, our offensive line isn't blocking well enough, it's not good enough, you know, or, you know, hey, I'm just, you know, some coaches are just fascinated with the pass. You know, I don't know that that's something that you want to do with the kind of offensive line that you have, but I felt like they just didn't run the ball enough for me. As for the Browns, I mean, I don't know if there's anything to say. They know what they need to do. It's right there. If they needed to figure out how they want to run their offense, that game right there was all of it right there. That was all of it. There's no, you know how, like, when you say, when you're talking about a definition and you can pull up a picture and you look at the picture and you know that's the definition of what that word is, that would be the definition of what the Browns offense should look like.
I agree wholeheartedly. They really put the Bengals in a bind. They forced them to tackle the team. The Bengals obviously don't tackle very well. Jesse Bates, man, listen, I like Jesse Bates, but that was a concern. That was a concern going into the NFL. And I believe that was one of the things that you pointed out when you broke him down coming out of Wake Forest, was the fact that there were times where he just wouldn't come under control. And he had a rough day. I mean, they played a ton of single high, and he was the last line of defense, and he just could not bring down Chubb or Hunt time and again. To your point with respect to the Bengals rushing attack, I'm gonna disagree with you. Not necessarily the rushing attack, because I'm always going to be of the mindset that if you're throwing the ball 60 times, you didn't run the ball enough. Almost regardless of what the score is, you did not run the ball enough. I think that goes almost without saying. I don't like the usage. I don't like the usage of Gio Bernard and Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon wasn't even on the field in the fourth quarter. We talked about Joe Mixon at length when he was coming into the league, and then certainly as he's been a pro and now obviously in his fourth year. You give him the big extension, but you're not using him in the passing game. And it's clear as day to me that Joe Mixon has the goods. He has the goods. You rarely see him going down on first contact. He's as comfortable catching the ball out of the backfield, working out of the slot as Bernard is, certainly. And I think it was probably one of the better backs in the NFL in terms of making plays out of the backfield in the passing game. So whether the Bengals want to lean on what Zac Taylor has come up through, which is the outside zone and running play action off of that, or building their offense around what Joe Burrow is accustomed to, which is spreading you out, 4 or 5 receivers, leveraging the tight end down the seam, Joe Mixon should be on the field. You know what I mean? Unless Joe Mixon needs a breather, he should be on the field. That doesn't mean that Gio Bernard doesn't have ability. It's just that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me that when I clearly see he's obviously the superior back, you've made the long-term commitment to him, make sure he's part of the game plan. Keep him viable. Anytime they went in a 2-minute or 4-minute offense, and then certainly during, when they were in the no huddle, it was just all Gio Bernard, and it really didn't make any sense to me. I did not care to see that personally. You alluded to AJ Green, and he had a rough night. He had a rough night. I thought initially it was maybe some rust, but he fought the ball the entire night. And I don't know, man. Is it that time? Have we seen the end of AJ Green, or are we being a little bit too premature here?
No, we're a little premature. It's only 2 games in. He didn't play last year, and I think the year before, wasn't he hurt? He missed a bunch of games.
Most of the year. He definitely rushed.
So you definitely talk about almost 2 years of not playing football. You know what I mean? So and Ward was like white on rice out there. And like you said, when the ball did get there, he was fighting it, man. It looked like he was struggling. And in the times where he kind of got open, Burrow missed him. So. He had 13 targets, caught 3 balls. 6 receivers had more receptions than him, but he had 13 targets, which is crazy. So I just think it's one of those things. Him and Burrow need to tighten some things up in terms of connecting. And I think I don't know, maybe AJ need to get on the jugs machine. I'm not sure, man. But I asked y'all boys, I said, hey man, something wrong with AJ, man? He's old, bro.
I try to give him the benefit of the doubt. Our caller Russ, you mentioned the almost 2 years, 24 months worth of a layoff. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time to then be in game speed and dealing with a quality defense. This is a quality defense. Don't let that performance against Baltimore week 1 show you. It just goes to show you how good Baltimore is. The thing about AJ Green that as I'm watching the game that kind of started to think about is, what has AJ Green done so well over the course of his career? And to me, it's always been that deceptive long speed, his ability to track the football, deep, and then of course body control, contort his body to make plays and come down with the grab. And let's just call it what it is. He is getting longer in the tooth. So if he loses a step in terms of that long speed, in terms of his ability to stack defensive backs, then what does he rely on? What does he rely on at that point? It isn't superb route running. I don't think AJ Green has ever been, a superb route runner. I think he's been a good route runner, but not necessarily the hallmark of his game. And then the other part is that he's never been physical necessarily. So when you don't have that top end speed or that long speed, and you're fighting the football, and you're not necessarily, and like I did see some of that body control. I think he still has that, but that to me, that's the reason why Denzel Ward was stepping on all his routes. He was never threatened at any point. You know what I'm saying? And then, of course, when you have a smaller defensive back on you, because AJ Green is 6'4" solid, right?
Yeah.
He's a solid 6'4". There's no the play strength isn't necessarily there. You got to bully a Denzel Ward. If Denzel Ward's all over you, shadowing you, jumping your routes, being more physical than you, that's a problem. Because Denzel Ward's not a big corner, and physicality is not the hallmark of his game either. So yeah, it was definitely a rough night for AJ Green. On the other side of the ball, you mentioned Odell Beckham getting involved in the offense. And here's the thing, the reality is that it's going to be I think it's a good thing if Odell Beckham gets 5 to 6 targets a game. Obviously we know he's capable of more than that, but based on, as you mentioned, the formula for the Browns' success, it shouldn't be an overwhelming amount of targets week in and week out for Beckham. I anticipated with this change in the offense that we would see less Jarvis Landry. Had I not watched the game, you probably wouldn't have known Jarvis Landry played. You know what I'm saying? Because of the nature of the offense. So it's going to be one of those things, and it may be a Jarvis Landry week. Maybe Odell might be real quiet, and maybe a Jarvis Landry week. I think that may happen, but as far as the Browns passing game, it was encouraging to see Baker Mayfield get back there and rip it a bit. Again, I think we've already alluded to this, but I'm gonna re-emphasize it because obviously to me this is where games are won and lost more often than not, and that's the line of scrimmage. And Cleveland controlled the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. What was your impression of the offensive line play and as well as the defensive line play from these two teams?
I don't know if there's anything that needs to be said about the Bengals offensive line. Again, it's a work in progress. They got some pieces maybe they want to change out. I guess I'm not gonna name any names. Florida State.
Bobby Hart. Yeah.
But I think again it's a work in progress. And they just happen to be going against some man-childs on the other side that was just handling them. As for the Browns, man, and going against the Bengals front, Bengals used to have all this talent, man, and I don't know. Like I don't know about the Bengals defense in general. They got some guys with some names,
sure,
but I just don't know what's going on over there. Like they were marshmallowy up the middle. I know they've struggled with linebackers for years, but maybe they were just going against a superior team that just knows how to run the football. They figured it out, man. I don't know, man. Maybe that's why they threw the ball 61 times. They're like, hey, we need to keep pace because our defense, if you can't stop, that's one of the things that would drive me crazy as a coach, man. If you can't stop the run, if someone is gashing you with the run, that's like one of the worst things that could happen. If you want to dink and dump me down the field, if you want to throw, you want to Patrick Mahomes me and get it done in 2 plays, okay, we'll just move on and keep going. But if you're gonna run it down my throat, little league style, we'll run the same 4 plays and see if you can stop it type thing. I can't deal with that, man. That drives me crazy.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly how much of a difference Geno Atkins would have made, but he wasn't in the lineup. He was injured. Because and the reason why I say that is, and I don't want to take anything away from Geno Atkins. Geno Atkins is a difference maker. But if I'm not mistaken, PFF had reported that Nick Chubb had 101 yards before contact in this game. And I alluded to the poor tackling, the piss poor tackling that the Bengals displayed in this particular contest. So yeah, it was bad all around. I do want to tip the cap to Jedrick Wills. I really like Jedrick Wills coming out. The transition that he's made from right tackle to left tackle. He never played left tackle at Alabama, and he seemingly has taken to that position very quickly and really helped solidify this offensive line. And here's the thing, the Browns offensive line stands to get better if Jack Conklin is healthy. It stands to even get better. So that's really what brings a lot of this back to the Baker Mayfield conversation, is that this team is stacked. This team is talented enough on both sides of the ball. They can certainly control the line of scrimmage. I thought Sheldon Richardson had a hell of a game. I haven't seen that Sheldon Richardson in quite some time. Myles Garrett obviously is a stud. But yeah, it really does come back down to Baker Mayfield and his ability to make plays when they need him to make plays. I think more often than not, they'll be able to lean on their skill position players. It's just a matter of him getting the ball to the skill position guys and letting them make things happen. Certainly, it really helps when you can turn around and hand the ball to a Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt, or get them involved in the passing game, do an extension of the run game, using them in the short part of the field as far as passing is concerned. So, it's set up nicely for Mayfield. We just got to see that consistency out of him, in terms of making plays. Any individual performances you thought were really noteworthy?
Is Tyler Boyd a receiver one at this point, or is he, is he that guy? Is he the guy on the offense outside of Burrow and Mixon?
Yeah, I would say so. I actually was really encouraged by what I saw from Tee Higgins. I think Tee Higgins obviously coming out. I think we all really liked him. I think he's going to be a player. I know there are some people who feel like, it's Tee Higgins time. Maybe AJ Green time is already passed. Maybe a little premature on that, but it definitely was encouraging to see Tee Higgins play.
Question, man. I got his name down here, man. John Ross, man. Is he MIA? Is he like what's happening, bro? Where is he, bro?
Well, I can't explain Mike Thomas getting more burned than you. I can't explain that. You know what I'm saying? I think John Ross had about 25 to 30 snaps. Yeah. And I can only remember one target. I don't have the statistics right in front of me, but I can only recall one target. I think it's probably a little John Ross, and I think there's also some coaching. I think at some point you got to max protect and take a shot. It's okay to max protect. I know everybody wants to get everybody in the route and let the quarterback deal with the free rusher, this, that, and the other. But outside of Denzel Ward, the Browns have some injuries in their back end. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they weren't challenged. They weren't challenged. Everything was very, I think there were maybe 3 passes that went beyond 15 yards. I could be mistaken. I probably need to fact check that, but I just didn't see them stress the defensive backs enough to put them in compromising positions where they may have to hold a little bit or interfere or whatever the case may. Utilize the speed of John Ross. You know what I mean? Stress that defense. And again, I understand that there are concerns about the offensive line and them being able to hold up. But that's where you bring in max protect. Now you go with a heavy play action look. You know what I mean? You do the 2-man route. You know what I'm saying? And if it's not there, you throw it away. You know what I mean? So, but as far as individual performances, I was encouraged by what I saw from Drew Sample after CJ Uzomah went down with an Achilles tear. Uzomah. I thought Drew Sample, whom they used a second-round pick a year ago on, showed very well in this game. I think he's going to be heavily involved in this offense moving forward. Jonah Williams, I thought, had an up and down game. There were a couple of good reps and there were some not so great reps. So seems like he's knocking off some rust. And obviously, this is his rookie year effectively. Effectively. But they obviously need him to play at a high level, blocking, protecting Joe Burrow's blind side. As far as the Browns, we alluded to Denzel Ward. I thought Ward was excellent in this game. I'd like to see him against guys who are a little bit more physical. I think that's when he tends to struggle. But in terms of his mirror match ability, the fluidity of his hips, he's got quality ball skills. When he gets his head around, he's always in position. He's always in position. It's a matter of whether or not at the moment of truth he has the necessary, the requisite physicality to make the play.
Goodson. Yeah. For the Browns. Yeah. Bro, every time I turn around, bro, he may not have made the play, but he affected the play in some way, somehow. Like it was uncanny. It was kind of ridiculous. And I was like 93, and I'm like, that ain't. Right. I had to go to the computer, and I'm like, oh, okay, BJ. Okay,
it's that BJ Goodson. It's that BJ Goodson. Yeah, yeah. And you know what? The Browns are missing Mac Wilson, so there's another piece, another talented player that they're missing, and that once they get back healthy can really be a difference maker. Like I said, there's no shortage of talent, and that's why the expectations are so lofty. And that's why there's a substantial amount of pressure on Mayfield. Obviously, the conversation keeps going back to that. But like I said, you know, Kevin Stefanski did some self-scouting from week 1 to week 2. And the formula is run Chubb, run Hunt, play action. That is the formula. And I think this team can be quite successful utilizing said formula.
And that tough
it is a tough division. It is a tough division. It's not going to be easy. But certainly to me, that's what gives them the best chance to win. And they have the talent. There's no question about it. They're going to have to find a way to beat Pittsburgh, split with Baltimore. They're going to have to find a way if they want to get a playoff berth. But then again, you do have an expanded playoff.
So you can slip in.
So you might be able to work your way in there. They gotta make sure that they stick to this formula and continue to ride that running game and a quality offensive line. The last thought that I have on it, really going back to the Bengals, is the Bengals have to decide what they want to be. I think, you know what I mean? Troy Aikman said something during the broadcast that really resonates with me, and it's something that I always talk to you and Headley about, and it's that, when you play under center, it opens up your playbook, particularly for the run game. And when your offensive line is struggling to protect, struggling even in the run game, I would rather have that group firing off as much as possible with Joe Mixon toting the pill, right? As much as possible, and then work and play action off of that. I get it. You want to get as many of those talented receivers on the field as possible, leveraging those 4 and 5 wide looks. But I'm telling you, you can run 11 personnel and you can make a difference with what you have right now, leveraging both the running game, that outside zone, and play action. And I think they would be more effective doing that. Again, the end game may be we want to replicate what Joe Burrow did at LSU and get as many receivers out into the route as possible. But until guys are consistently beating man-to-man coverage, until we start to see, whether it be AJ Green return to form or Tee Higgins start to really establish himself, I don't think you can afford to do that right now. I think you need to lean on the guy that you paid heavily just this offseason, just a couple of weeks ago, in that backfield. And that includes not taking him off the field on third down, not taking him out of the game during 2-minute and hurry up. So, again, I mentioned at the top that Kevin Stefanski did some self-scouting and it really righted the ship. I think Zac Taylor has to do some self-scouting as well and determine what is it that we can do best based on our current existing personnel, particularly along the offensive line. Does it make sense for us to do this kind of dink-dunk approach, spread it out 5 wide, or should we leverage this running game a little bit more, get under center, work the play action a la, Sean McVay's offense?
Yeah, man, I agree wholeheartedly with everything you said. It's essentially one team found who they are and the other team got to figure it out, man. That's it. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do defensively for the Bengals, but offensively.
They're going to have to continue to add talent to that side of the ball because, that's a mess over there. It really is. But, that's going to do it. That's going to do it for our Cincinnati Bengals, Cleveland Browns analysis and recap. Please like, comment, and subscribe.